Studio right now is Tom Murphy, Bookstr's in-residence surfer of the day. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you.
We have one viewer says hi from Greece.
Oh.
Yeah, have you been there?
I have not been to Greece. No.
Okay, where have you surfed?
Most of my surfing has been in the U.S., in New York and New Jersey, a bit in Florida and the Carolinas, but a fair amount in Hawaii, Costa Rica, Indonesia, Australia, Barbados.
Okay, so you resonate with the author we just mentioned, William Finnegan, that it's a sport you can really take on the road with you to anywhere in the world.
Yeah, you don't even need to bring anything. Usually you can find a surfboard wherever you go.
You just rent one, right?
Yeah, most of the time I don't bring a board.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the best part about surfing to you?
The best part? If you're having a bad day, I always feel better after surfing. And a lot of people have asked me, I don't know why that is. There's something about the water or a good wave. It's like hitting a good golf shot. It just feels good. So yeah.
Does it calm you? Does it make you more relaxed? Does it makes you think of the meaning of life more?
Not for me. I started surfing when I was a little kid, and then it was just trying to find the best waves constantly and battling to surf, find the best wave. But now it's probably more taking my time and picking the best wave. So yeah, it's pretty relaxing to me, and there's nothing better than catching a good wave.
And speaking of that, how do you pick a good wave?
One that you're going to make. If it's a big day and it's a big, it's a tough break, certainly you want to pick the one that you're going to make. When I say make it, so that you, whether you get off at the peak, and if it's not a closeout, and you can see a nice line, and it's going to be a good ride. So that usually is how I think about choosing the wave.
Okay, and this may be a dumb question, but since I don't surf, I'm terrible at it. What makes a good surfer?
It is hard to pick up at first. It's like skiing, right? You can't just go out there and get it right away. So what makes a good surfer? I think it's just having fun and getting out there and doing it. Some people like to ride really short boards. Some people like to ride longer boards. If I'm tired, I ride a longer board, and that's kind of easier to surf. It's harder to surf shorter boards, but if you want to have a little more fun, you surf a shorter board. So.
And speaking of surfing, the 2020 Olympic Games are going to be in Tokyo. And for the first time ever, surfing is going to be an Olympic sport.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
How do you feel about that? And how do you judge? Is
it
by speed? Is it by how you turn? Is it by how many waves you?
I think there's how many waves. It's the best wave, and they choose, and there's judges that'll decide based on certain moves, or there's getting in a tube or a barrel, or moving up and down the wave and turns, and that's how they'll judge it. Yeah.
So you think it'll be a panel of judges?
Yeah, usually there's 3 to 5 judges in competitions.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And there's a point system and waves and heats that you go through. But it's arbitrary. But there are some consistent winners of the World Championship. Yeah.
Okay, and then do you think the U.S. or any other country might have an advantage just because we're next to the ocean on both sides? And
it seems like the U.S. has an advantage in everything. So. But I would think that, I don't know, it's a good question. A lot of the good surfers come from Hawaii, and probably the best surfer in the world still is Kelly Slater, and he's from Florida. But there's some great surfers from South Africa and Australia, and parts of Asia, Japan. Okay,
so as a surfer, other than going out and go have fun, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? Like, how do you work out in a gym? Because you have to condition yourself, right? You have to be in some kind of.
So I just did. I was in between jobs this summer, and I had about 100 days off, and I was in much better shape this time surfing. I was in Indonesia, and I did a long surf trip, about 12 days, and surfed about maybe 8 hours a day. And I ran a lot. I'm training for the marathon, so I think having a good cardio base helps. But your shoulders get very, very tired surfing 8 hours a day. There's no great exercise other than surfing to help you surf more.
So
or
just do
continue
it.
to stay
Do
out
the
there.
actual thing.
I mean, the hardest part about surfing, right, is, I should say physically, is probably paddling and catching waves and being able to hold your breath in difficult situations. The actual surfing and turning isn't that physically demanding. So, but I guess you need a little bit of core work. But listen, there are people that are 3.5 feet tall and overweight to 6 feet in perfect body surfing. So everybody can get out there and do it.
You said when you were in Indonesia, you surfed for 8 hours a day?
Yeah, I would get up depending on the day and where the tides were or winds. We would surf get up at 5:30, get out there at sunrise. So we would surf like 6 to 11 in the morning, 6 a.m. to 11, and then in the afternoon, kind of 3 to 6. So yeah, I mean, some days would be more than 8 hours.
That's intense.
Yeah, it was a lot of surfing. Yeah, it was great.
So you gotta love it. Do you like any other water sports?
I do like to water ski a little bit. I don't do that very much. But I would say water sports would be surfing. I enjoy swimming. I've done wakeboarding. But I would say surfing stands out by far for me for water sports.
Okay.
Paddle boarding's kind of fun. Never really figured out kite surfing, and kite surfing is just way too much equipment. Like you got bags and
so
boards.
many things.
Surfing, I mean, I go to Barbados. I don't even bring a board. I have someone that I surf with down there, and she kind of takes it out. It's just really easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And for our audience who may be beginner surfers, what are your advices? What do you offer them?
Get out there and do it. I just taught my kids how to surf. Make sure you get the right board. So if you're beginning, I would suggest getting probably for a bigger board than a smaller board. A lot of people want to take out a 6-foot board, but it's probably easier if you start somewhere between 7 and 9, depending on your size. And be aggressive with it. Don't be afraid of it. And don't lose your board. Hold on to the board.
You have to have that, what do we call it, the leash, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And are there days you just, go to the beach and you're like, I want to go into the water, but I don't really. I'm just going to chill, have a margarita.
There are some, but not too many. Most of the time I like to get out and surf. But, I mean, some days you're just tired, and if the waves aren't great, you really just don't want to go out and get tired for not great waves. If it's really crowded, that'd be another way. I'm like, I just don't feel like dealing with that. But you can always find a spot that's probably not so crowded. But I'm not one to sit on the beach. I like to get out there and do something.
You don't like to get tan. You just like to be in the action, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, where are you going next?
I think, I'm going to be, my first trip plan is probably in Mexico, and then I'd like to go back to Barbados, which is probably my favorite spot to surf.
Okay. How many surfing trips do you take?
I try and do probably at least 2 a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And each one is, you were in Indonesia for, you said a couple.
Well, that was, Indonesia was far. It took me about 35 hours to get there.
Yeah.
So that's pretty hard to do. And then I was away I was on an island. There were just 5 of us. So it was a pretty remote area. So that's hard to do. But Barbados, Mexico, Costa Rica, Nicaragua are easier spots to get to. Hawaii's great, but it's far. Yeah. It's hard. It takes a while to get there.
From New York, right?
Yeah.
And then, did you say you have buddies that you go with, or you have?
I have some friends that I've gone with. Oftentimes, I've gone with my former wife or just different friends. But many times I've gone Indonesia. Indonesia and Australia, I was by myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you want to share like a situation maybe you felt, wow, the waves, I don't feel so comfortable today. What do you do in that situation if you felt, it's maybe
I've
a little
only
dangerous?
had one situation in my life, and I've been surfing since I was a little kid, where I felt out of control. And it was a situation where someone I was surfing with broke their board, and I gave them my board, and I was caught in a really bad rip and got sucked out pretty far. And that's a pretty nasty situation when you're tired. But a lot of times you are, yes, sometimes you're, you get held under, and it is what it is. You hold your breath and hang through it. So,
is there anything you learned throughout your surfing life that's extremely applicable to real life?
Oh, I don't know. Patience.
Okay.
Because if you choose the wrong wave in a set, you just pay for it. And if you choose the first wave and you don't make it, and then you're caught in like a washing machine and you can't get back out. So I think it's probably patience is what I've learned probably the most from surfing.
Okay, I'll give you the last word to our audience.
Last word, enjoy it. I think it's a wonderful sport. Get out there and try it, and you can do it for the rest of your life. There's very few sports, I think, out there where you can surf from a little kid to, well into your 80s. Lots of people do it.
Okay, thank you so much, Tom Murphy. I'll see you back next week.
Thank you.